Hello, friends, and welcome to Automation Nation YouTube channel. Let's imagine that you're the owner of Facebook. Let's imagine that your application is really huge and is getting bigger and bigger. And so as your business grows, you decided to release new and new features. The more people are working on your application and releasing your code, the more at risk it is to fail. Now imagine that amplified bug risk of more than 1 million resource control commands running per day or more than 100,000 commits made per week. Then that factor in the early limitless click swipes and other user behaviors that you need to test each and every time with every change into your application before you release. With numbers like this, Facebook was a perfect providing ground for scale test automation. But even if you're not at Facebook, anyway, you need to scale, you want to grow, you want to save your time and money for manual testing, and you want to keep your quality, the high quality of your application. Because that's why each and every company invests heavily in test automation, because without it, business quality simply doesn't scale. So today we're diving into how to start test automation from scratch. A journey that's both strategic and technical. Whether you're a solo tester or joining a new project, I'll walk you through everything you need to build. You need to know to build something maintainable, scalable, and actually useful. So, why test automation? Test automation is more than a buzzword. Done right, it reduces manual effort, detects regressions early, enables faster and safer releases, and builds team confidence in product quality. And yes, it can also save real money, but only when it's aligned with the actual goals and risks. Let's check the advanced software testing by Rex Black, where he defined test implementation roadmap. And he defined the list of stages that you need to walk through before creating your first auto tests. First, you need to define your automation business value, to calculate your KPIs, to define your ROIs for your business. Secondly, you've got to define process, decision model, to evaluate some tools. Maybe some of those steps will not be done by you, but they were done previously before by someone, some test manager. That's why they made a decision to start to implement test automation. Your goal is to define a tool, to create some short list of tools, to evaluate them, and select it. Later on and only afterwards, your test automation relaunch was achieved and you start to create your auto tests. So let's dive into the whole process, the whole magic that happens behind the curtain. At first, we need to understand the context. We've got to, before writing a single line of code, we've got to zoom out and ask ourselves, what are business goals and risks? What's the team structure? Who will be using our auto tests? How often do we release? Did someone already try automation and why it failed? These steps help you avoid blind spots and sets you up for smart decisions later. Secondly, you will define your goals and scope. So, are we trying? Is your purpose is to speed up regression testing, or catch bugs during development, or boost CI/CD feedback? We've got to define the goals clearly and discuss them with stakeholders. They've got to be discussed, and we define scope collaboratively to prevent some unrealistic expectations from test automation, because it's not a magic pill. At first, what should be automated? Obviously, stable and high value flows. But also define what not to automate, like flaky experiments or unstable UIs. Scope is everything. Get this right and the rest flows smoother. Then we need to choose the right tools. Any test tool put into place should deliver positive benefits relative to the initial and recurring costs by Rex Black. So we've got to define the costs, how much our tool will cost. Even if you're using some free tool, you're paying for the specialist. So you're receiving some salary. Anyway, test automation is not free. That's why we've got to define what test types, what test levels will be automated. We've got to discuss it verbally. Maybe some unit tests will be covered by developers. We've got to define the coverage for unit testing. Some component tests, maybe they want to cover component testing. Maybe they want to automate contract tests by packed flow, for example, or to cover integration testing. And don't forget about testing pyramid. The lower you test in the pyramid, the faster you catch the bug, the more money you will save for your project. And there is clearly a set of tools that currently we're using most of the time, that are the most popular. But for each and every test type and test levels, there are a different set of tools. For example, for UI, you can use Playwright, Cypress, WebDriver, IO, or some other tools. For API, you can also use Cypress and Playwright, but you can use Postman, Supertest, or something else. For performance, you can use K6, JMeter, but there are also plenty of other tools. You've got to always consider your tool risks, limitations, and costs, and pay attention to your CI/CD tool that was already chosen by developers, that they're already using it, and you've got to integrate your auto tests with your CI/CD tool as early as possible. The next step is, okay, let's imagine we'll be designing our framework architecture. We're not writing any code so far, but we've got to think twice beforehand. What are we going to do there? We're going to follow page object model or some other models. We're going to follow, but will definitely follow best practices, like don't repeat yourself, keeping simple, solid principles. You can apply some design patterns, but don't overcomplicate it at the early stages of your development. Also, you need to think about the environment management, reusable test data utilities, and the folder structure and naming conventions. And structure always matters, because for scaling and onboarding, you've got to keep it simple. Then let's think about integrating our auto tests with CI/CD. Okay, so plug your tests into a pipeline as early as possible. Run smoke tests on pull requests, nightly regression runs. Think about if you can integrate your auto tests right into developers' pipeline. You've got to think beforehand about post-deploy verification, some health check, and automation works best when it runs without manual steps. CI/CD is your friend here. Also, let's start from what to start. Okay, let's start with critical path. It's the best way. Use happy path workflows. For example, login, purchase, checkout flows first. You can use mind maps of your business analyst or user journey diagram, any documentation that your project has already developed, or you can just discuss it during some sync-ups with your team, with maybe manual QAs, just to make sure that you're covering the right functionality first. What is the most important to the customer, to the user who will be using this application. Then we need to think about to start managing data and environments. What can we do here? So we can see data for QA, for staging. For example, we decided to run our tests on QA, on staging, on some environment, on only one. We also can mock unstable APIs, and we've got to define as early as possible, because unstable APIs will cause you unstable tests, and unstable tests will result in unstable test results. And we using dedicated test accounts for this automation. You've got to think about those accounts, and remember that environment stability prevents you from flaky tests. So environment instability equals flaky tests. The next thing is make test results useful. Somebody should check your test results. They should be useful. So use Allure or JUnit reports or any other reporters. You've got to configure it and think about it as early as possible. And you need to include snapshots or videos if your tests failed. And always track flaky tests and runtime statistics. Automation without observability is just a noise, and you want clarity. And remember that your auto tests are quality gate during development, during each and every development stage. So if unit tests passed, then automation smoke should pass. Then, for example, automated performance or security smoke should pass. Then automated regression tests pass, and only then we receive some, for example, test report generated and deployment complete. So our goal is to make each and every step automated. Also, don't forget about collaboration and documentation. Even on early phases of your project, you need to create test plan. You need to create to have some test strategy, obviously. And many frameworks, they just fail due to poor documentation, and nobody uses them because people don't know how to use it. So you've got to document setup, you document commands, best practices, naming conventions, you define contribution guidelines, and always promote testability with developers. Quote of the day: the best is the enemy of the good. Don't wait for perfection. Automate a little, ship and improve. Track what matters: coverage, speed, and reliability. Make space to reflect each sprint, and adapt. And my personal tips for avoiding overwhelm: done is better than perfect. Deliver small wins every week, accept that not everything should be automated. Automation is a journey. Be kind to yourself and to your team. Let's wrap up. Start your context, define scope, pick tools that fit, build clean architecture, identify, integrate with your CI/CD, test what matters first, stay collaborative, improve as you go, and you've got it. And don't forget to like this video, to subscribe for more testing talks, and you can find free checklist download in the description to this video. Until next time, keep it clean, keep it fast, and keep automated.